Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You're speaking to Pontsho Pilane from the Daily Vox, and today we bring you a special hangout on the Northwest University's Potchefstroom campus. So this past week, I've written a few articles on the transformation or lack thereof at the Potchefstroom campus of the Northwest University, and it has been a mess. To say the least. We've had commentary, like the comments section has just been ridiculous, with some people disputing the allegations that there's racism and discrimination at the campus, to some saying that getting rid of Afrikaans would be bad because Potchefstroom is the only Afrikaans campus left in South Africa. Yes. So today we are hanging out with a lady who will go by the name of Lerato. She's a student at the University of Northwest, the Potch campus, and she'll be talking to us about her views on transformation at the university campus. Lerato is also a member of a newly formed organization that will tackle transformation issues on the campus. It goes by the name of Transform Pukke Forum. So welcome, Lerato.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, no, thank you for making time for us. I just want to ask you, before we begin, what are your thoughts on the articles that were written at the Daily Vox about the Potchefstroom campus?
The first article is an article I personally related to very much, because she was speaking of an experience that I have lived through, and many of my friends have lived through, being a student on this campus. So I felt like that was one of the first pieces of articles or pieces of reporting that was finally allowing Black students a voice to talk about how they feel being on this campus every single day, and how much of a very traumatizing experience it is to them every single day on this campus.
Okay, so you say that you share some of those views. What are those views that you shared? Is it about the language policies, about how other students treat you? Could you just share some of your experiences that resonated with you from the article?
I think one thing that needs to become perfectly clear, and I think a lot of people who are pro-Afrikaans keep shooting themselves in the foot about, is being anti-racist is not being anti-Afrikaans. And if they keep saying that, they are the ones making the connotation, or they're the ones that are creating the link between the language and the racial oppression. So the general view of the Black student on this campus in terms of Afrikaans as a language, they are not against the language. And this is very evident in the countless colored friends we have who speak the language. So this connotation that white Afrikaners have, that the language belongs exclusively to them, and when we have a problem with the language or with the racism, we have a problem with them, is something that is completely fabricated and created in their own minds over there.
So what do you have a problem with? So it's not the language necessarily. What is the problem? Is it the culture? Please expand on where the discontentment from students comes from.
The problem isn't necessarily with the language Afrikaans. It is how it is used strategically in terms of like the power dynamics, because this university campus is predominantly white Afrikaans. So when you are white Afrikaans, it means better access to so many different things, and better inclusivity to the entire social element of this. It is in the treatment you receive from lecturers being better in terms of your inquiries. It is in like just basic receiving of education. It is in the entire culture. Because this campus is predominantly white and Afrikaans, it is about protecting this white hegemony on this single campus, and that is the problem.
Okay, I hear you. So a lot of people will wonder, why did you choose to remain anonymous today for the hangout? Why don't you come out and proudly say, I am so and so, and I am against the Afrikaans culture that exists at the Potchefstroom campus of the NWU? Why are you anonymous?
Honestly speaking, and this is something that is coming through with a lot of students that you speak to on campus, is there is a genuine fear. We are a minority. Like the official stats say we're 30% of the campus, but if you look around on campus, that it looks so much less than that. And then you have, in the middle of trying to create something and trying to mobilize students, you have articles being written by people saying the Afrikaners, they're very disappointed in the Afrikaner youth not standing up together and protecting this campus, and they should get together and protect this campus. And you look at the dynamics of this campus and you're thinking, what would actively mean in them coming together and protecting this campus? That is a fear for my safety, for my life, and I value that above all things. And also because this university has not really been very welcoming in terms of anybody who expresses an opinion that is different from the majority. I'm almost done. I'm almost done with my degree. I'm almost basically out of this university campus. So me and my face and everything that I want, and my identity being known out there is very detrimental to me right now.
So do you think that your education would be threatened in some way if you were to reveal your identity?
I think that is a very real thing that could very much happen in terms of specifically targeting by the university as you being officially labeled as a troublemaker. It might not necessarily come from the specific faculty and lecturers, but if you are labeled as by this university as a troublemaker, it means that at the first sign of distress or whatever within your degree, there would not be the ability of the university to quickly kick you out would be greatly increased.
Okay, so you say that you feel like the university is not welcoming to issues that students are bringing up about transformation, about changing the language policy. We received an email from the university saying that there is that the Pukke campus has what we call a human rights commission, where anyone can report any racial discrimination or any complaints against students. Any student can use that as a place to report any incident that they're not comfortable with, that they think threatens their safety. Do you know of this commission, and have you used it before? And why isn't this an avenue that you explore as students to try get some of your issues addressed?
I did not, until you were speaking about this, even know that such a platform existed. And I think that's very true for a lot of students, like, oh, wow, okay, we can complain somewhere. Yay, finally. But there's also that whole issue of who exactly are you complaining to, and what is their vested interest in it? Like, is their vested interest in terms of breaking down the white hegemony of this campus, of trying to make this campus actively inclusive? Or is their interest in it, oh, it's another incident, let me report it, let me file a report, something was made, and then it goes and nothing happens to it. So I think even if they were to make this platform very much known, I think that there's an inherent distrust towards a platform by the university saying you can complain to us about what we do to you. So how would that even work?
So are you saying, as it stands right now at the university, there is no platform where students can go address some of the issues they have in terms of being discriminated against by lecturers and other students?
There are platforms in the sense of you are vaguely encouraged to speak about it, but there aren't platforms in the sense of a trusted opportunity of this is a place of safety and your opinion and your feelings and your lived experience is valid and validated, and when you complain, something will actively be done about it. Because every single avenue of this university, in whatever means they attempt to protect or support students, is all about protecting the white hegemony on this campus. That is the first and foremost priority of this campus.
And so where do you think transformation should begin at Pukke? Where's the first call for transformation, in your opinion, and in the opinion of the many students that you gather with to form this transformation forum?
First and foremost, before we even get into the language policy of the university, it is in something as simple as the student numbers. Like, Potchefstroom is an anomaly in the sense of the number of white students compared to black students, and you look at the rest of South Africa, you will wonder how 80% of the population that is the Black people of South Africa has been reduced to such a small number, and 90% can constitute 70% of the entire campus. That, and the fact that there is a certain quota in place, that the Black students here are actively, or we are actively only enrolled here to keep that quota in place, to keep the people in the higher education satisfied with the quota. Like it isn't about actively increasing the number of different students. It is, they have to be less than 30% or 30%, and that's exactly how we're trying to keep it.
So, in your opinion, do you think if that quota didn't exist, that Potchefstroom would be an all-white Afrikaans campus?
Oh, absolutely, definitely. I do not see how, when you already look at how this university tries to be very dismissive and shutting down of alternative voices, that they would actively want to bring in students who would bring in a different view. This campus would entirely be predominantly white Afrikaans.
And I go back to my question: where should transformation begin then? Where do you think the first point of transformation should be for the campus?
To actively increase the number of Black and colored and Indian students on this campus, to try to move into a space where the demographics of this campus reflect the demographics of the country. Then I think if we're moving in that direction, it means that the voice or the opinions of what is seeming like an outrageous, out there, completely crazy, trying to be political minority will decide to be, will grow in number, so that we can, because when we are so little, what is perceived by the university and also by parents and students is we are being radical. And we lack authenticity. If I stand up and I share my experience as a Black student on this campus, majority of the campus will be able to come tell me about no, but that's not true, because they have a Black friend whose experience is different. So my experience is immediately invalidated because it's just me or two or three others. Like the experience and the lived experience of the average Black student isn't considered valid, because there's always going to be a counter retort, or we did this or something else, or you being whatever, when I'm just saying this is how I experienced this campus. Like our voices are not heard at all.
Okay, and so you're saying that they must include a lot of more Black students into Potch campus. But let's look at like we said, the Pukke is a campus of the Northwest University, right? And when we look at the other two campuses, which is the Vaal and the Mafikeng campus, there is a majority of there's a majority of Black students. So maybe the argument is that the fact that Black students are represented in those other campuses, there doesn't need to be a representation, especially because of the language preference of the university. What do you say about that? Because I think when I looked at the stats, it's 60% of the students in Northwest University as a whole are Black students. So that is closer to the national demographic than the campus itself.
But I think like a few things that are very problematic. One is the university actively likes to promote that number so that it can show how diverse it is without promoting the number of this specific campus. Two, when you say things like that, it kind of creates this implicit thing of certain spaces are supposed to belong to certain people by basis of race and language. And that cannot be true in a public institution. That has no grounds and no basis in the Republic of South Africa. So nobody is supposed to be extra allowed or extra valued or extra welcome to the Northwest University simply because they speak a certain language. I have, as a student, as someone who passed matric, who qualifies to go to a tertiary institution, have a right to go anywhere. I am not going to be less allowed to go somewhere because I don't speak the language. So this thing of this place inherently belongs to some people and we should leave it and keep it there is very problematic.
You make a very valid point, but I just want to go to a question that is posed by one of our followers on Twitter. They asked that, his name is Zaid Creel. He says that, so if you're critical of the university, you can be expelled. Is that even legal? What do you have to say about this? Because the fear is, like you said, the fear is that something will happen to you, or like there is some kind of, you'll be held to ransom, or you have some vulnerability if you are exposed and your identity is exposed. So what do you have to say about this? Has there been cases where students have been expelled or students have been victimized for speaking out on things such as the lack of transformation at the campus?
In terms of the university as a whole, there are specific instances, and I'm going to name this the faculty of the nursing faculty, which is a much small and very like set aside faculty, in which like students who speak out are actively targeted, and their marks are involved in so many different things. But as a university as a whole, it is in speaking to students and trying to get them to join and to form a part, to construct a one solid black voice, and then it is in somebody saying no, I was involved in this and this, and I've already got like a warning from the university, I don't want to get expelled. So the fear is very real, because it is like it sounds insane even talking about it, and I know people who are listening to it are going to immediately dismiss it, but this like it is a very real option and very real thing that has happened to students.
Okay, now I hear you. So let's talk about movements like Rhodes Must Fall, Open Stellenbosch, and the Black Student Movement at the university, currently known as Rhodes. Do those movements inspire you in what way? When you see those movements, what are some of the thoughts that you have about them?
I think we're living in a very incredibly brilliant time in the lives of South African students, because we are moving away from the place where we as Black students were always thought of. We should be grateful, and we should be happy that we're finally being allowed to be in these spaces, where we're finally getting to the space of we question these spaces, we question the ideologies that these spaces purport, and we realize that while we are, and many of us have parents and grandparents who are mopping floors and cleaning houses, paying to get us here, but we also realize the fact that because I am here, this place is supposed to be a much more different environment for me. It is not supposed to accommodate me. How are you supposed to accommodate me in my own hometown? To accommodate me means I'm outside, I am different, and you're doing things here. So all these movements are just like a final vocalization of things that have probably been happening within Black students for a long time, complaining about the white hegemony on the different campuses. So I look to those movements, and I'm greatly inspired, obviously, that finally Black students can get together and say, here is our problem and here's how we fix it. And I'm sorry, those long documents you write about transformation and meeting targets are bullshit. They mean nothing when they don't reflect anything in the daily lives we experience. So good for you, and continue writing those long memos and whatever in management, but they mean nothing, and we're finally going to step up and claim spaces as belonging to everybody and not to one single group.
Are you going to form alliances with those other movements on other campuses for support, to rally support, and to also have just people people to maybe consult in terms of what is the way forward? Are you going to call them up? What's going to happen in terms of?
There's obviously been there's obviously been a lot of talk between us and the different movements, obviously, because I think and I think specifically a few students at UCT and Stellenbosch that I have spoken to, and other people who may be lecturers or people who live in those environments, understand, and they're willing to help, but they also understand like the difference in the dichotomy of Potchefstroom, because as I was saying, the fact that we are such an explicit minority in a small town in the middle of, half the people don't even know the Northwest University like Potchefstroom campus exists. So we're in such an isolated space where liberal thinking is very thought of as foreign. So our space is completely different. So obviously the dynamics of our space is completely different. And when we say we fear for our lives and we fear for our safety, they are able to understand that, and therefore like I think like in that type of way, the advice and the help and the reaching out that they give us is very different. But yes, we're currently like speaking to the different organizations.
So I've spoken to a few students at the campus, and a lot of them seem to pin all their hope on Professor Dan Khwadi. What are your thoughts on the newly appointed Vice Chancellor?
Honestly speaking, I have no problem. I have on several occasions had the honor of speaking to Professor Dan Khwadi, but I also and in a personal capacity, I like him and I understand the rock and hard place he is in between, because the it for me, I honestly, like, I raise my hands and I think I will not have been able to take on such a monumental job, because he's hearing voices from two different sides, and each one wants to move forward their own agenda or what they seem is right for the university. But I don't know, like, my willingness, and I think the forum's willingness to speak to Prof. Dan is very real, but we also have to realize that Prof. Dan is also part of like a council that is made up of predominantly white Afrikaner men. And then you kind of like, the impact which he can honestly have, then you start to question that. But if any and all opportunities to speak to him, to finally get him to listen to the voice and be part of the people who want to perpetuate a difference in culture and like a difference in the institutional culture of this university, will greatly be appreciated.
Okay, and let's talk now. Let's just go back to your daily experiences as a Black student on that campus. What is the most traumatic or violent thing that you have experienced? And by violence, I don't mean physical violence.
Yeah, no.
I mean violence of like epistemological violence, for lack of a smaller word. What
Yes.
kind of violence do you face as a Black student on that campus, in your personal capacity?
In my personal capacity, it is on, I think it was 3 or 4. No, it was definitely 3 separate occasions, walking literally, like, as in swiping out of the university to go across the street to buy something at the local supermarket, and on 3 different occasions having a car full of white students roll down their window, and me doing nothing but doing this daily exercise of going to buy something and have profane, like, I don't even think I'm allowed to say it on yeah.
Okay.
It's profane
So
things.
they're swearing at you?
No, just calling me very racial derogatory terms. Having those things happen. Yes, having those things happen to me. It is and then standing there and realizing like I did nothing, and not that anybody could ever deserve to have those things said to them, but in thinking that just like my daily existence on this campus irks you enough for you to take time out of whatever personal thing you were driving off to do, that you want to say something to me. It is in hanging out on the campus bar, the Drakenstein, and having fights break out because somebody accidentally like stepped on somebody, or something as innocent as that. But it is in having like segregated like tables, or like be it intentionally or unintentionally, in the Drakenstein. It is in first years in residences when you have dances and whatever, or socials with other male hostels. It is in you being brave and finally asking somebody to dance and having someone laugh in your face and say they don't dance with Black girls. It is in so many different things that happen to me and other students where you feel like the culture, the people, you are not welcome here. You are different, you are other. And it I think like there are many other students, and I think I'm very fortunate. There are many other students who have so much worse incidences that happen to them. Mine have just been on a not in a physical sense of violence, but in other ways. Yes.
So last week, it was reported that the ANC Youth League from the Mahikeng campus came to protest on campus. Is that true in any way?
Yes, it is true. I think a majority of the. Sorry.
What were they protesting about?
They were protesting about the majority of the students on this campus didn't even know that the protest was happening until it was over. And then they were protesting about transformation specifically on this campus, and that is something that like a lot of the students who are friends with me on Facebook and who I've spoken to, and then these are predominantly white students talking about the protest, have got this had this anger and this like puzzlement within them as to why they would even come to our campus and want to strike and march, because like the idea as to why this institution in its root core should change like completely like baffles them. They do not see anything wrong with this institution. So like the strike was very big. It was students from Mafikeng and Val, and then the few students from the Porch campus who knew they were also part of the strike. But like it didn't raise any questions in them as to why people would want to drive 2 or 3 hours that Mafikeng is from there to come say there is something wrong here. They took it as they're attacking me, not hey, maybe there could actually be something wrong here. That's basically it.
What is it that you want, like we're about to wrap up, and I just want you, what is it to say something in closing? What is it that you want to say to the white students or the white lecturers or the any student at the campus that is against the move for transformation and that thinks that wanting the campus to transform is something that will violate their right to learn in their mother tongue, which is Afrikaans in this case? What is your parting message for them?
Okay, please educate yourself. If we're having discussions and I use terms white hegemony, heteropatriarchy, I use things like white supremacy, whiteness, so many other terms. You cannot look at me and be befuddled. You cannot, if I say you benefited from and continue to benefit from apartheid, look at me and be completely confused. Educate yourself in facts, not in what your says by the braai or whatever. The only way that this conversation is only ever going to happen is if we speak the same language and we understand the same truth and we live in the same reality. And unfortunately, that isn't going to happen. So obviously you're going to resist change. You're going to label us radicals. You're going to label us crazy. You're going to label us undeserving or houtkoper or whatever derogatory term you want to use for us. That is because plain and simply, you do not understand. You have been placed in a system of ignorance for many years that has made you the custodians of intelligence and beauty and so many other things as white people. Understand the views of Black people. Understand where we're going from. And first and foremost, before we have anything to do with language, before we have anything to do with culture, educate yourself. That is my message.
Okay, thank you so much, Lerato, for joining us, and we really appreciate you for joining us despite being scared of participating in this hangout. We appreciate that you still did it, and we look forward to speaking and to continuing this conversation on transformation at the university, and hopefully that the university will join us in these discussions going further, because we at the Daily Vox would like to continue this conversation until the students at the Potch campus are satisfied. But from me at the Daily Vox, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that has tuned in and that has sent in questions. Please catch us next time when we have a Daily Vox hangout. Please check out our website at thedailyvox.co.za. Send us an email at info@thedailyvox.co.za or follow us on Twitter. Thank you. Bye.